Hi everybody, welcome back to another video. Welcome to Lariah Abroad. Today on this video, this is episode 3 of our new podcast series that we just started a couple weeks ago, Bedrooms Talk. So I am super excited about this video. I literally was taking a nap and I was like, okay, Lord, like what are we doing today? What are we going to get done today? And right away, he said bedroom talks, and then he said the topic, which is the title of the video, rejecting God's promises. This word actually ties back to the first two videos the first two videos in this series that I've done, which is I almost got evicted and are you really ready to receive what you're asking for? Let's just say that I am now in the process of receiving the very thing I asked God for. So, what does it look like to reject God's promises? Do we have any biblical examples of somebody who rejected a promise from God, but God still came through on that promise? We absolutely do. It'll be Sarah in the Bible, Sarah and Abraham. If you don't know that story, it's good. You should have at least heard about it. So God gave Sarah the promise of her being pregnant, and Sarah laughed, right? Sarah had unbelief. Sarah did not believe that God was going to give her the very thing that he said he was going to give her, right? Mind you, when God gives you a promises, sometimes you desire it for yourself, and then sometimes he desires it for you, right? So if for Sarah to laugh and have unbelief, that means that God giving her a baby at the wee age that she was at was not in her plan, okay? So when God said, yeah, I'm going to give you a baby, and she's in her 90s and she's just like, how? Like, Lord, look at me. Like, how are you going to birth this thing through me? So we can take from Sarah's story, her story of unbelief, and we can take from God giving her a promise and her not receiving that, and we can apply that to our lives, right? So the promise that I'm talking about is marriage. Aww. Right? So God gave me the promise of marriage. I gave him my yes in 2023. That is when our relationship started. So we are like 2 years in, almost 3 years in.
Just a stupid boulder.
It's not just a boulder, rock.
Yeah, so on our 2-year anniversary, I went and got God and our wedding ring and then my purity ring, because I am waiting till marriage. I am now a virgin in Christ, but before Christ, I was out in that world, honey. Okay, I was out in that world, and thank God he snatched me out of it. Amen. Amen. So, in the last video that you all seen me post, it was, are you really ready to receive what you're asking God for? And now that I've been in this process of being pursued and in this process of surrendering even more and in this process of being selflessness, but also receiving God's promise in a way that did not look like how I personally thought I was going to receive this promise, it is an experience. I will say that. I will say I rejected the man. I will say I rejected the promise in the form that God wanted to give it to me in. And I will say I was disappointed in God, and we will talk about that, because I truly do believe that it is okay to ask God for something, to have a desire for something, and be disappointed at first. Thank you, because when he gives you something, it is a good thing, okay? And so once we get past our feelings and we are diving in with faith and trusting that God is good, and that if God sees that me and somebody else, or my life and a decision God's want for me is good, and just having faith and trusting that instead of trusting my feelings, and rejecting the person and the promise and just the whole experience. And let's just say I was ready, and I did. Okay, I told God, I said, honestly, Lord, I'm okay with being single. I know I've cried myself to sleep. I've cried, but now that I'm in it, I am okay with, with being single with you for a little bit longer. And I very much so did give it back to God, but I feel like it was like hot potato, because I would give it back to him and he would give it back to me. He's like, no, you prayed for this, you asked for this, you fasted for this. It's time. And I was just kind of like, Lord, like, nah, like I'm really cool off of this, like I really am. So let's talk about it, right? So I have the promise of marriage. That's something that God gave me early on. It's a desire, but it's also like, if you desire something and you've been desiring it and it's good and it's pure, like a family or businesses or kids or, you know, even different rankings in his kingdom, like what you want to do in your ministry and stuff like that. These, like, or writing, even being an author, painting, art, singing, like careers, all of these things are all desires, because you have to think, if you have a passion for art, look at the world. Okay, God is quite literally a Picasso. Okay, he is very creative, and so his creativity through us looks different. Art, music, singing. I'm a chef, I'm in culinary, I bake. So like that creativity comes out in different ways for different people. So God gave me the promise of marriage, and you know, when I made that video a couple weeks back talking about, are you really ready to receive what you're asking for? I'm not going to go into full detail just yet until I'm released to do so. But I can say that, first of all, y'all, I'm no longer single. I am a girlfriend. I am being courted. I am in the courting process. There will be a video with me and Mr. Man coming here soon talking about the courting process. Like how to court, and we're still learning that, like what that looks like for us. There's some stuff coming out. Be watching for that. Be ready for that, because I'm excited for that. So when God gave me the promise of marriage, and just recently, it was actually October 10th, 2025. I remember it because I just, like, that date is just, it's in my mind, because it's also in my notebook, but it's just like in my mind. Like October 10th, I was re-led to write down what I want in my godly husband, right? I already had a list, mind you. I already had a list. I already wrote down what I wanted in a man, over 6 foot, a nice tall chocolate man. You know, he could have waves, he could have locks, he could be rocking the he could his own, fine, tall, and handsome. Plus kingdom traits and a good heart and, you know, stuff of that sort. And I think God is so funny. So I had all of that written down, and I was re-led to write it again. Now, writing it again was a process for me. I rejected that too. And I'm not saying it's because I felt like God was just like, I want you to rewrite this. And I was like, why? Like, I have a list, I submitted to you the list, and you're telling me to rewrite the list. Like, why are we doing that? And it was because when I was writing this list down, I had another man in mind. And when he told me to rewrite this list, it was because God had another man in mind. And I was just like, this time I had to surrender, right? I had to surrender the color, the height, you know, if he was going to be in state or out of state, weight. Like, I surrendered everything. Eye color, skin color, if he had things going on. Like, I surrendered everything in this new list, right? But in this old list, God was like, you had a specific man in mind, and that man is not your husband. And I was like, yeah, but even if that man's not my husband, Lord, like, that same list still applies. But also the difference between the old list and this new list is that I wrote it, this old list, I wrote it and gave it to God, but this new list, I wrote it with God. You know, so as I was writing this list of what I wanted in my godly husband, I paired with God. And as I was writing, he was speaking to me of what to write down. And so one of the things that, as I was writing, I was like, okay, Lord, like, what else? He said loyal. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's good, because I wouldn't have wrote that down. It's like you kind of expect somebody to be loyal, but I'm writing down my list and I'm giving it to God. And so one of the things that God spoke was loyalty. Like, you want a loyal man. And I think the good thing about writing a list with God is that he knows what you don't consider. Like, what may be common sense to some people is really not common sense to all people. Okay, you would think that a person will be loyal to you in a relationship. But the good thing about pairing with God is that when I'm writing my list with God, he's giving me and speaking to me things I'm not even thinking about, things I'm not even considering about. He's thinking so far ahead. He's giving that to me now. Lariah, pray for a godly, pray for a loyal husband. That's what you want. That's what you need. And so that was that. So I rejected the list because it was just like, I already have a list. What you're telling me is his list is not good enough, ? And he was just like, no, you just had somebody else in mind, and you truly hadn't surrendered everything I need you to surrender before I send you who I want for you. And little did I know, a month later, he would be sending me who I'm in a relationship with now. And there's just a lot of confirmation in between there. We both will be seeking confirmation until we stand up on that altar and say, I do. But that's just a whole nother video. I am going to start from the beginning of November because I think that is the first time that I actually went to go see him in person. Mind y'all, in this new list, I did surrender him being in-state, out-of-state. Like, I was like, Lord, I always jokingly said, and this is why it's important to watch your words, guys, because the Lord is always listening. He's always like, write that down. Like, you be very careful with your words because God will absolutely take that into consideration. So I did write down and I did say, like, I wanted him, I would be okay with him being out of state because I feel like the temptation would be very different. Like, it would be little to non-existent, which is true. And then if he was in state, then I would be over with him often. After work, I'd probably try to go see him. Like, before work, we'd be hanging out a lot. And I think that during the courting process, there does need to be space. Because not only are we courting, but we need to be in a constant pursuit of Jesus and making sure that this is something that he wants for us. So, and we need space to do that. Like, space together to pray together for this union, God, if it's your will, but space separately. God, is this your will? So at the beginning of November, there was a process of surrender that God had me go through. Me personally, he had me go through before. And I talked about this in the last video, in the Are You Really Ready to Receive What You're Asking For, when he had me take out my nipple piercings and then my belly ring. And it was because he was sending me this man, the God of suddenly, if you ask me. So that act of surrendering, the very same night that I took out my nipple ring and my belly ring was the same night that this man, I called him back because he called me, but I was busy. So I called him back and we were talking. He was like, I'm interested in you. Like, you know, I find myself liking you, this, that, and the third. And that same night I was like, okay, you know, I'm gonna come up there and I'm gonna come see you. And so I said this on a Tuesday night, and that Thursday I went up there for the weekend. I drove up there that Thursday and I seen him and I had an Airbnb. And just even praying that night after I said that, after I hung the phone up, because I was like, wait, Lord, like, that was very, like, it was, like, I heard it come out my mouth, like, oh, I'm just going to see you. But, like, it was a very quick thought, and it was just, like, bold. It was very bold, because I don't go and drive to see no man. I don't do that. Yeah, I don't do that. So I think God is funny, because I was sitting there and I was telling people, like, wouldn't it be so funny if, like, my man was out of state, temptation, yada, 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 if it would be easier. And God, he wrote that down because that man is out of state. The man lives in Ohio, okay? So I went to go see him, and upon the first meet, I was taking notes. But I was like, oh, like, okay, like, he's, you know, he's a handsome, young, light, bright man. And mind y'all, light, bright, part of surrendering, because I liked a nice, dark-skinned brother, and God gave me a light-skinned man. I call him my little apricot. He doesn't like peach, but I call him my little apricot because he's just bright. The melanin, the white one, and that's okay, because it's not about the color. It's about the heart. You know, God doesn't look at the outside. He looks at the inside of the heart, man. And I am learning to become more like Christ, and Christ doesn't look at our outer appearance. So I am looking more at that man's heart than his light brightness apricot color. So I think it's only funny because I just talk about this all the time, and he just knows that. So yeah, I went to see him, and like the first time he picked me up from my Airbnb and we went to Bible study. That was our first hangout. Was Bible study. So we went to Bible study, and that was cool. And I got to see him in the light because it was dark when he came to pick me up. So I got to see him in like the lighting of the building and stuff. And I was like, oh, okay, he alright, And then the second day, I met him at his job to have lunch with him. And I was like, just observing him. And I was like, okay, like, yeah, he's pretty cool. Like, one thing I noticed from the very first night after Bible study, we went to go get something to eat, was that I was very comfortable with him. Like, and I was thought of that, and I was talking to God about that. Like, Lord, it feels like I've, like, known him for a long time. Like, I'm just comfortable with him. And I had to think, like, is that just who I am? Like, I can just be in a car with somebody and be comfortable and talk to them? Or is it deeper than that? And so I kind of just, like, brushed it off. I just, like, took note of it, but I brushed it off. And I was like, yeah, I'm just comfortable with you. We had Bible study the first night. That was Thursday night. Friday, we had lunch. And then we went to the movies. And then Saturday night was our date night, okay? I went and I got my hair done. Yeah, I don't be taking no pictures. See, I think the only picture I have of the outfit and my hair was in the picture with both of us together. And I'm not going to insert that yet. But I went and I got my hair done and stuff like that. So yes, that Saturday night we had a date night. And that Thursday night we went to the movies. And like at the movies was when I got comfortable with him to lay on his shoulder. So like that was Friday. The date night was Saturday. And I did have to get up and leave that Sunday. Either way, I got comfortable on the second day. And I was just like, I can lay my head on him and stuff. We went to go see Sarah's Oil, such a good movie, and I laid my head on him, and that's when I got like comfortable. And so on Saturday night we went to dinner. He took me out to like this steakhouse, and it was really nice. And that's when I was just like, oh, this man is fine. Like he is real life handsome. Like he looks good. He all dressed up and stuff. I went and got a whole new outfit because I wasn't expecting to extend my trip. I was not expecting to extend my trip. I wasn't expecting to go on a date night, like a date night, like a dress up, like a dress to impress type thing. So after the date night, we had a conversation, and then I was just like talking to God, and I was like, I was journaling throughout the whole time. I was talking to God throughout the whole time, praying throughout the whole time, because like, Lord, I came down here initially hoping I didn't like him, hoping that, oh, we need to stay friends. I'm not really interested in like that. And the opposite happened. Like, I came down here to see for myself because I don't want somebody to tell me, like, oh, I'm interested in you, oh, I like you, and then I try to talk to them and pursue a relationship, like, and they pursue a relationship with me, and we date, and I never meet them first. Like, I need to have a physical connection with you before we sit there and try to continue to build over the phone because of the distance. So, the trip for me was to go down there and find out for myself type of trip, and I ended up liking him. On that date night, I was like, we're going to have a conversation because I ended up coming down here and actually liking you as well. And I told him that wasn't really even my intention. My intention was to just like scope out the scene, and just like find out for myself. And I ended up actually like liking you. And so we had a conversation, and he was like, I like you, you like me. It was me who had said, so after he was like, I like you, you like me, like this is something, he was like, this is something that I want to pursue you. And I was like, okay, let's pause for a second. Let's pray and fast. So that's what we did for 3 days. We prayed and we fasted. And throughout the process, God gave me visions and dreams. And throughout the process for him, God gave the man confirmation. But we came back together. We prayed at the beginning of the fast and at the end of our fast. No communication in between. And then at the end, but we also, like, we did, like 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. the first day. So at 6 a.m. we prayed, 5 p.m. we prayed, no communication in between. And then I think the second and third day we did 6 to 3. Prayed at 6, no communication in between, prayed again at 3. And then at the end of that, we both had peace and like received a yes from God. This is what he wants from us. Now, Lariah, how do we get from you liking him to you now rejecting him and God's promise. How do we get there, right? Okay, cool. So, I'm attracted to him. I like him. He's nice. You know, we're having conversations about things that I only pray to God about. I'm seeing things in him. I'm like, oh, I like that. And so I go home. We pray and we fast. I have peace about it. I have dreams and visions. I'm like, okay, cool. And so then I get an ick. And I was telling God, and I was like, Lord, let me get an ick if this is not supposed to be. Like, this is all while I'm up there. And then God was talking to me about pride. And he was like, your pride, Lariah, can cost you the very thing I'm trying to send you, right? Like, our pride can really stop a lot. Like, and God was asking me, is this a big thing or is this a little thing? Is this something that can be worked out over time, or is this something that's just a complete deal breaker? And I was like, well, I guess you're right, Lord. It's not that big of a deal. And he was like, okay, then. So what he revealed to me is that my pride can ruin a thing for me. So let's travel for it some. You know, like a week goes by, and so now we're already planning like our second meetup. And I did go back down there again. And the first day, you know, like throughout, let me back up some. So like we're already planning our next meetup. During the process, we're talking on the phone, we're texting. One thing that I absolutely love, which I got irritated in, but it wasn't him, it was me, was that he initiated like Bible study, like just like one-on-one. He initiated like the prayer time. One thing that I love that he does is that he is intentional in praying, and I pray about everything. So when I was very specific when I told God I want to pray, man, because that's important, right? So I'm praying, he prays about a lot, and he covers me in prayer as well. And then he like initiated the Bible study. So let's fast forward some. We're on FaceTime, we're talking, and like I'm just like, you know, like I'm like, okay, yeah, the attraction is still there, but like I'm the type of person that if I told God I didn't want to do long distance, I told God that because it's like I can like you. So my thing is with long distance is that if I'm not like seeing you face to face often, my interest falls, right? So like during this process, I'm like, okay, we've seen each other, a couple weeks goes by, now we're planning our next trip. But my thing with this is that my interest isn't falling, but like my attraction is falling. And so during this process, I'm still asking God, I'm still praying, I'm still seeking him, and he gave me scripture to confirm his word. And I'm still rejecting it because now I'm like, Lord, I don't want to do long distance. And so during this time, before I go see him a second time, I am battling double-mindedness. I'm battling, did I even hear God correctly? The same thing that happened in the first video about the getting eviction, that process, go watch that, it's really good. It's the same thing that's happening now. And so last night I made the decision, and we'll get there. But so this whole process, before I went to go see him a second time, I was double-minded. I was getting icks. I was second guessing. I was just like, Lord, at this point, I don't want it no more. Like it's too much. It's like, I feel like I can't hear you, but it wasn't that God wasn't not talking. It's just, he wasn't saying anything about the relationship. Like he was like, Lord, I've given you my thumbs up. Like there's nothing for me to say right now. Like, and so I feel like my relationship with God, it changed a little bit. And I've heard people talk about that. Like when you get in a relationship with a man, that your relationship with God changes in a way. And I think I was experiencing that, and I didn't like it. I was like, okay, Lord, because like we're both seeking you and doing Bible study and praying together, but like you're still my father, and I need you to still talk to me like I'm still talking to you throughout my day, and it just feels different. And like I miss you, Lord, like I miss you. And so then he spoke to me, and I was like, okay, we're good. But no, yeah, during this process, so I go back up there a couple weeks later, and I go see him again. And like the first day is cool. I don't even know what we did the first day. I think the first day I met his mom. And I think again, we had Bible study that night. And it was good. And then like that next day, y'all, that Friday, the full day I'm there, I was irritated with him. And it wasn't like, I kid y'all not, it was not him. One, it was a spiritual attack, but two, it was also me. Because I'm like, but also let me talk about it. Thank you, Lord. I was overwhelmed in every way possible. I think that when God gives you a promise, I think it sounds nice because, you know, like, oh, it's the promise, but you don't know what stepping into that actually looks like. And so we had talked about the hard conversations. We were talking about marriage and stuff like that, because the truth is, when you are courting somebody, your intention is to get married. It's different than dating. Dating is, we're dating and we're trying to see, do we like each other? You know, do we want to take this further? Do we want to go, you know, do we want to go to the altar? Do we just want to waste each other's time? But when I said that we made that decision after fasting, that, okay, you're going to, like, he's going to court me, and the intention is marriage. Now we're talking about marriage in a sense, and housing and who would move where, and it got really overwhelming for me. Like, all of my senses were overwhelmed. My mind was overwhelmed, my heart was overwhelmed, my body was overwhelmed, like my future was overwhelmed, and I'm not even there yet. Like, it was so overwhelming for me. And so it really felt like I just couldn't hear God because I'm overwhelmed. I was also tired. I had worked completely. Like, I haven't had a rest day. And I think that, please take your sabbaticals with the Lord, okay? Spend time with him. Let him refill you, because I was just running and running and running like that whole month long. And even on my off days, I was with him. So I wasn't like one-on-one with the Lord, you know? I wasn't resting because we were still doing things. We were still going out. We were still doing things, spending time together. So I never had that like one-on-one rest time with the Lord like all day. I had like time with the Lord, yeah, but it wasn't what I'm used to. So I got overwhelmed because I realized after the fact that I was experiencing burnout just from work, just from not resting in the Lord properly. I was experiencing overwhelming just from the entire process of this promise. And so because I let it get that far, that is when I started rejecting the promise. That's when I started rejecting the man, because it was becoming too much. It truly was becoming too much. And I told him we need to slow down, because we're talking about marriage, we're talking about kids, we're talking about moving and looking at houses and this, that, and the third, and businesses. And I am still trying to get past, like, you. Let me explain that. When I had my list, yeah, I surrendered like the looks, height, everything, color, everything. But when I wrote my new list, I surrendered all of that, but I still had hopes for that is what God was going to give me. So when I say I was disappointed in God, it's because, Lord, I have my wants, but I want your will. But it's like, Lord, I still have my preference and my type, but I'm surrendering it to you because I know you know what's best for me. So there's still some hope in there because, Lord, I surrender it, but I'm still hoping that you'll still give me what I want, like what I like and my preference in a guy. And so I'm disappointed, not in him, but in your choice for me, because I had yet not truly surrendered. I surrendered it, but once God gave it to me, it's like I snatched back my list and I was like, this is not what I asked you for. So I started rejecting the man, and then I started rejecting God's promise, because that's when I was just like, Lord, I don't even want this no more. Like, Lord, I surrendered it. I gave it to you. You gave me what you wanted me to have. I'm disappointed, not in him, but I'm disappointed that I surrendered something to you and you gave me something completely different. You gave me something that I didn't ask for, but I asked for it. You know, like I asked for it internally, his inside, but I didn't ask for it, his outside. And I was honest when I told him this. And so I was like, on top of being drained and tired just from working and not having rest, and this being just overwhelmed from this process, because it has been moving fast. Like, to the human eye, it's moving fast. But to us, it's like, it's slow, but it's still like we've had so many conversations, and that can just get overwhelming as is in itself. So just working through that, it has truly been a process. But so that Friday, last Friday, I was just so irritated with him, and it was not him. It was not him. I was just irritated because I was overwhelmed and I was still processing, like, you're not what I expected, you know? And that's being honest. And I was like, even like looking for videos. I'm calling my friend and processing with her. And I'm just like, I prayed for him. I'm disappointed because I surrendered to God in hopes of that he would still give me what I'm asking him for. But he gave me something completely different. Not to mention, God even gave me a dream. Like weeks prior to him even telling me he was interested in me. And I was excited. He gave me a dream. And in this dream, you know, my partner, my spouse was somebody of a completely different race. He looked different. And I looked at him in the dream and I said, like, you're not my type. I would have never gone from you, but you treat me good. And so I woke up from that dream, taking notice of, and God was saying, what I'm getting ready to give you, you've never experienced before. And so now that I had him saying that, what I'm getting ready to give you is new. You've never experienced before. It's not your type. You would never have gone for this type of man. And then to actually live it, like at first I was excited because I'm like, okay, maybe he just means that like, I'm just like, maybe he didn't like literally mean literally different type of man. Maybe he meant like, I don't know. But I was trying to make any excuse in the book of just anything. When God presented, you know, the man to me, I was like, oh yeah, like he's fine, like he's handsome, like he's good looking, Lord. And then being overwhelmed in every which way possible and not knowing how to truly like make a decision and stand on that. So fast forward, on the 16th of November 16th, I became a girlfriend, y'all.
Aww.
And I didn't regret it, but I was still overwhelmed. So I became a girlfriend and I was just like, I felt stuck. And what I mean by feel stuck is that I was still like, even after I went home, and then after, you know, we prayed and fasted and yada yada the second time, and then I went home, I was still overwhelmed and I was still irritated. Like that whole Friday, he knew something was wrong. And like, I was even irritated when he wanted to hold my hand. I was like, God, I'm not holding his hand. Like, I didn't ask you for this. I didn't ask you to send me somebody I'm not attracted to. And it's not that I'm not attracted to him, but I was just truly overwhelmed. And you know what? It's definitely different for me because I had to surrender, again, my type. So yeah, I became a girlfriend. We had a whole process. And really just to kind of wrap all of this up about rejecting God's promises, is that the same state and flow of mind that I was at when it was crunch time to being like in court to be evicted was the same flow and state of mind and being overwhelmed and just feeling I can't hear God. And the truth is God already gave me his answers, but because I felt the way I felt, I brushed it off. The same way that God gave me his answer, like the right to stay and pay it off. Like the whole reason that your mom and the church is raising money is so you can't stay. And you're getting confused and asking me why you can't hear me because you're trying to move in a direction nobody told you to go in. That's why I was upset and overwhelmed and just, that was a lot. And so God had already gave me his answer. He already told me this is what I want for you. And I was trying to go in a different direction and stuff like that. When I got back, I came back Saturday. I took the rest of the Saturday to myself. Like I didn't really talk to him as much. And then I just had a conversation. I texted him because I woke up that night and I could not sleep. I broke up with him. I don't even think that we were dating like a full week. And then I broke up with him because I woke up that night and I heard just so many voices in my head. It was confusion. It was fear. It was myself. It was so overwhelmed, y'all. I literally woke up crying. I could not take it no more. And the only thing I felt at the time, which it did work, was to break up with him. And so I broke up with him and I was just like, hey, we need to be friends. This process is overwhelming. It is. It's hard. And I just need to be single is what I basically said. I said we can continue to build as friends And then he replied back. It was 3 o'clock in the morning. I don't know why he was up, but he responded back. But my phone's do not disturb, so I didn't see it till the next morning. But as soon as I, sent that message, the voices went away. My heart was no longer like cluttered. My mind was not cluttered. My body, I could breathe again. And I was just like, Lord, was I supposed to do that the whole time? Like, and that's when I convinced myself that, you never wanted me with him in the first place. Boy, was I wrong. So he actually ended up calling me the next day, like later on in the day, just to talk about like, why did you break up with me? Like, what's going on? And so I told him, and that's when I told him, I prayed for something and God gave me something, but it doesn't look like, not that I had a certain look, but I still had hopes for, and I told him that, and I said, what he sent me, it's taking me back a little bit, because you weren't what you weren't what I was expecting. That's what I told him. That was the truth. Like, yeah, I know I surrendered it. And I think that's why God asked me, like, are you really ready to receive what you're asking for? Because part of what you're asking for doesn't look like what you thought it was going to be. How many times do we ask God for a solution? We ask God for help. We ask God for a husband or a wife. We ask God for so much. And he is God. So the way he decides to yada, 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 and do something for you and give you something does not look like the way you would have thought, right? It just doesn't. Like when the man in the Bible, he was like covered in leprosy and he was just sick, and he went to the prophet, and the prophet told him, go wash up in the bath, like in the lake or the ocean. Go wash up in the water 7 times and you'll be healed. And the man was just like,
What?
Like, he wasn't expecting that. He was expecting to have to like give something. He was expecting just everything but go wash up 7 times. So when God does something, and a lot of times my experience is with God, when I ask him for something, he just has a completely different way of doing it. But I think for me, I'm like, Lord, a husband is like a lifelong thing. And so something I'm so grateful for my friend, because something that she was helping me process was that for every time that I get double-minded, every time I just want to back out of being like a girlfriend, that I might get like an ick or something, like 3 things that I like about him, 3 things about his personality, 3 things that I like about him, 3 things that, basically to overrule the one thought that just made me like, Lord, I'm not really sure about this no more. And so he understood. He understood. I'm so glad he's patient with me. Okay, this is truly a process. And again, it just comes down to surrendering. But it is very easy to reject something that God's trying to give you, especially when it doesn't look like what you're asked for. Or especially when it doesn't come wrapped up in the wrapping paper that you would have preferred. Like, and so now I get to, because one of my prayers have been, Lord, help me, whoever my husband is, help me love him for who he is on the inside, not his appearance. And I think God really took that and he ran with it. And that's exactly what I'm doing. So, but when y'all see him, you're going to be like, well, right, he's not ugly. Like, no, he's not. He's not ugly at all. I was expecting like, a coconut, and I got an apricot. A win is a win. A win is a win. So for those of you all who are rejecting the process and rejecting God's promise, just surrender. Because the truth is, you prayed for that. And if you can't get past what it looks like, you'll never experience the goodness, the blessing, the prosperous. You'll never experience the good in what God is trying to, and what he wants you to experience, what he's allowing you to experience. If I don't get past the appearance, I'll never get to the good of what God is like trying to get me to experience. So I very well could reject the process, and God very well could send me somebody else, but who's to say that that next person will even be my type once again? So I will absolutely say some things that helped me during this process was that everything I felt, I took it back to God. Took it back to God. Took it back to God. I have my best friend, God-fearing woman, and I confide in her. I trust her. So when she's talking to me, she gives me Bible. You know, she prays for me behind the scenes. And like, if you don't have a support system like that in your life, ask God to send you that, and He will. I'm so grateful for my best friend. She does so much for me behind the scenes. She's such a prayer warrior, and I love that for the both of us. So yes, I also pray that my heart and my mind aligns with God's will, because I think that in praying that, eventually I'm going to get to a space where I'm no longer looking at your looks. I'm looking at kingdom. Like, I have to get past, you're not what I was expecting or asking for, but you are, to, Lord, why'd you put us together anyways? Like, so I'm now switching over to that Lord, why do you have us together? Lord, what do you see that I don't see? Because, Lord, you're not just thinking about, oh, she's gonna, because I will get over it, and I am getting over it. Just to make a little apricot. But, like, Lord, what do you see in the future that I'm not even considering? What do you see, you know, for your kingdom through this union that I'm not even seeing, right? So, yes. Rejecting God's process, I'm not the only one to experience it. You're not the only one to experience it. There are people in the Bible who have rejected God's process, but God's promise, but the promise still stands. Actually, thank you for the reminder. Sarah Jakes has a video that I watched a couple weeks ago. And it's talking about the process of the promise, the process to the promise. Like, the promise still stands. Like, God's promise to Sarah, it still stood. Now, the process to get, oh, thank you, God. Okay, I'm gonna finish that thought. So the process to get to the promise is where you're tried at, right? Because the devil can't attack your promise because God said, and that's final. But he can get you in the process. He can attack you in the process. He can play with your mind in the process. He can try to steal, kill, and destroy in the process. And if the enemy would have gotten me in the process, I would have never been able to transition to be able to receive the promise. So this brings me to what happened, the conversation I had last night with my best friend, and then with this man, my boyfriend. So last night, the same thing that happened and the eviction, like the same mindset was the same mindset I had last night, which was, for the eviction video, it was, I'm going to make a decision. I'm going to stand 10 toes down on this decision. And if God, if you want me to move, you know how to shake things up, and you know how to get me up out of this place. Okay? Was the same mindset I had last night talking to my best friend. I told her, you know what? I'm just going to commit. I'm going to commit. I'm going to stick it out. I'm going to pray through this process. I'm going to fast through this, work through this process. I'm going to stick with God during this process. And then at the end, and then, like, if this is something that God's like, I don't want you in this, God knows how to get me out of that stuff too. He knows how to pull me, jerk me. You know, he knows how to tell me, like, this is not what I want for you. So I said last night, I'm going to commit, like, and this is final. And if I'm going to surrender to the process. And if this is not what God wants for me, he knows how to get me out. The same thing. I was overwhelmed both times. I had a million things going on in my mind, in my heart, in my body, both times. And it was that final, okay, I'm going to stick to it. Okay, I'm going to surrender to the process. Okay, God, I want your promise. And if this is what your promise looks like, my prayer is that I receive your will. My prayer is that I am in one accordance with your will. If that is your will for me, I'm in. And I have to trust God through this process as I receive the promise. So yeah. So then, because he had called me when I was with my friends, I didn't answer. And I called him back when I got in the car and I was driving back home. And I gave God a password and I was like, you know, because I got on the highway and I was in like stuck traffic for like 15 minutes. I mean, just like, and I was just like, I don't even know why I got on the highway to go home. It's late. I don't like driving in the dark. And so last night in stuck traffic, all you see are red lights, like the brake lights of all these cars in front of me. And I gave God a password and I'm like, okay, God, if you, if you want me to tell him that instead of waiting it out, because mind you, like I broke up with him and like as of last night, we weren't together. I don't know. I never officially said I'm breaking up with you. What I said was, let's be friends. So I don't even know if you would count that as a breakup, because I tried, like, regardless, I felt better after doing it. So what I told God last night was, you know, show me some hazards. Because usually when you're in, like, crunched up traffic like that, somebody turns their hazards on. Nobody did that during this. So I'm just like, okay, like, clearly it's not, you know, I'm not supposed to tell him that I'm 10 toes down. Like, we're going to push forward in this relationship. And, you know, and so as soon as I got out of traffic and, like, I'm driving, I see this truck pulled over with this hazards on. And, like, I rolled my eyes because I'm like, Lord, you knew I meant, like, me in standstill traffic. Let me see some hazards. And I didn't see the hazards until traffic broke up. Like, until traffic was no longer. Until I was actually... And you know what? I can compare the traffic. I wasn't able to see signs. I wasn't able to see clearly or hear clearly because all I seen was just lights. It was overwhelming even then, looking at all those lights. And it wasn't until I got out of traffic, it wasn't until I had space and time and distance that I was able to see the password. I could tie back into it. But regardless, once I got out of the traffic and we were like back in flow state of driving, I was on the phone with him, mind you. I gave God his password in my head. I was very okay with not seeing hazards because then that means like, okay, I can just give them back to you, Lord. And I seen hazards. And I was just like, Lord, I meant like standing still in traffic. And he was just, I felt him just looking at me like, girl. And so I was like, okay. So then I seen another thing of hazards and I was like, let me just go ahead and tell him. Because I was like, no, God, I'm not. And he was like, he was just quiet. And I did. Let me just say that. I did. And I told him, let's just push forward. Like, he still knows how I feel or how I felt. But I felt good ever since last night telling him that. Like, I've had peace. Because I've made that decision. And I feel like once I make a decision to, like, stand in something, to, like, really commit to something, like, I'm in it. Whereas I was kind of like, beforehand. But now, like, I'm committed to it. I'm in it. Lord, what are you doing here? Like, I want to see it. Like, I'm good now. So that was that was my haps of rejecting the process, rejecting the person, rejecting the promise. It is very easy to reject the promise when it does not come in the way, shape, or form, the year, the time, the day, the color that you are expecting the promise to come in. The thing about God is that he does not always tell you the process through the promise, but he gives you and he tells you the promise, but you don't always have a glimpse. All you can do is hold on to a promise. You know nothing else about the process to the promise. So it's very easy to reject the promise when you realize, oh, there's a process to this that I have to submit to. So after Thanksgiving, I'm actually off this whole entire week. Like, I worked Saturday and Sunday, and then I was supposed to be in Florida today, but I was so tired. I told my mom, I said, listen here, Mom. I don't have it in me. I feel a lot better now that I've just had some time with me and God, because I was completely drained. Like, the past 3 days, I'm not saying I've been lounging in bed, but I've definitely been in my word and just spending time with him and just resting, and it feels great. It feels great. I feel much better. Without that time, like, in God's face, I was not able to make sound, good decisions. As you see, I broke up with that man. But the more I spend time with my Father and I spend time in his presence and in his word, I just, regarding whatever, I feel more confident and more sure in my decisions, rather than I'm just overloaded in every way possible, asking him for questions and I feel like he's not answering, but he's already given me his answer. So, like, it's definitely a process, y'all. That's it, y'all. That was my bedroom talks about rejecting God's promises. I hope y'all can relate, even if it's not in terms of waiting for marriage, because the truth is, I was asking God, like, because I was just so in denial. I was like, God wouldn't send me somebody I'm not attracted to. But, like, the first time I met him, I was attracted to him. But like I was throwing a fit and a tantrum because I asked for something and I didn't get what I wanted. But I got what I wanted, if that makes sense. So someone out here will be able to relate to what I'm talking about, will be able to relate to this video. And even if it's not in promise, even if God gave him a business idea, but it took like years, the route he took you to take it to receive that, even if it's with kids, because people have the promise of kids as well. And maybe you've been trying for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 plus years, and God has not yet opened that door for you. Know that if he's given you the promise for it, the desire for it, it's coming. Okay? The process for it is different. Surrender it, because even if he's promised you kids, what if he wants you to go through adoption, right? We don't really know. Surrender to the process so that you're able to and ready to receive the promise. So that is all that I have for you all. I am so excited that this is what God gave me to talk about today, because it's very recent. I realized that he gives me, like, I go through things and then he's like, yeah, go talk about that. And I'm like, oh, because what I was trying to say earlier was that I was looking for videos of like people who wasn't attracted to their spouse, and like, because I was trying to understand their process, but even their process is still not my process, because different men, different traits, we're different. And so their process, I was looking for just anything to just justify, like, Lord, why would you send me somebody who's just not my type? But like, he is my type, like he's not my type, but like part of surrendering is that, Lord, your type is my type. So I will see you all on the next video. Thank you all so much for watching Lariah Abroad, and I am so excited to see you all next time. Bye.